Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, How to Use Smart Document Management to Create a Profitable Client Advisory Services Practice. My name is Alex Oki, and I'm the Marketing Operations Manager here at SmartVault. Before we begin, I just want to go over a few housekeeping notes. Today's session will be recorded, and a copy will be sent to everyone on today's call. All attendees are in listen-only mode, so if you have any questions, please utilize the questions feature found in your GoToWebinar panel. We do have staff on the line ready to answer your questions, but we will also be going through those questions at the end of our presentation. That's all I have for housekeeping. So now I'd like to introduce our host of today's webinar, Sean Duncan. Sean Duncan is the Chief Proactive Advisor, CPA, and founder of SMD Advisory and Accounting in Plano, Texas. Sean helps clients and fellow professionals transition from a reactive to a proactive approach that accelerates the building of wealth and advisory practices, respectively. Having transitioned his own tax practice into a comprehensive advisory firm, Sean is sharing his transformative framework honed over the past 25 years to increase the value, profitability, and joy of public accounting. He will also be sharing his advice and expertise as a speaker and thought leader in the accounting profession and physicians who need advisory services to optimize their medical practices. Sean, I'll pass it over to you.
Awesome, thank you. Man, that sounded like I was important. This is gonna be awesome. Well, I appreciate everybody joining in and listening in. I've got a lot of material. We're gonna jump into that in a second, but before we do, when I say a lot of material, this is part of a 6-hour masterclass. We're squishing down into an hour. So if it's gonna feel like I'm going real fast, I am. It's okay. Pop us with questions, follow-ups. There's more information later. And then later on this year, you're gonna see the masterclass coming out with a greater deep dives of detail. But I want you to understand this stuff, at least at the first blush, to really get some value out of it. So let's navigate on over to the screen share. Let's see if this works. Look at that. We're ready for some screen sharing. All right, guys. So 3 critical accelerators for building an advisory practice. What the heck does that mean? Well, a lot of you know that we're supposed to all make this big move to advisory and we're supposed to change our firms and change the world. And that's true. But the way you do it is going to be completely different than the way I've done it and the way other people have done it. So let's talk about how we get there, because over time, I've built a methodology on how to make this stuff happen. So let's work the slides. See, I got to be smarter in the slides. Hey, look, I know that guy. You already heard a little bit about it. I'll tell you a little about my background in just a second. And yes, I do talk really, really fast. Of course, you guys know we're here for SmartVault. SmartVault, thank you so much for sponsoring, because I value the product and I'm really excited about what you guys bring to the table. So I'm looking forward to everybody else learning more about you as well. So when we move on to the next slides, we'll see if it works. There we go. Okay, first, the why. Why would you even want to make the move to advisory? You've all had lots of reasons, lots of topics. Here are a few of them, and then we're going to have another slide that's going to say some more. But first and foremost, it does absolutely bring more value to your clients. And when I say more value to your clients, you're helping them more. You're helping them achieve success. You're answering their questions. You're solving problems. We know that doing books and tax returns and audits are important. They're important. But the client doesn't value them the same way that I think that we value them. What they're wanting is insight, advice, and forward-looking opportunities. And that's the whole concept of advisory is. And of course, hey, guess what? It'll make you more money. I will testify that, you know what? You're gonna feel better about it too. You're gonna actually realize and start to see more impact in what you're doing when you know you're helping people be more profitable. You're helping them be more efficient, achieve success, retire early. Defense against lost revenue. This is a big deal. Whether you realize it or not, AI is coming. It is starting to automate a ton of what we do in our industry. How do we plan for that? If statistics are correct and over 50% of the revenue in public accounting is going to disappear in the next 3 to 5 years. Wait, what? Yeah, that's what I said. Plenty of different sources have pointed in the next 3 to 5 years, over half the revenue is going to disappear because AI will begin automating things and price pressures will push it down, or flat out replacing the need for a lot of the work that we do today. And so if you're planning on staying in business or staying employed, building other value-added services is going to be a critical part of that. And then of course, differentiate yourself. There is a reason a lot of people know about our firm across the nation is because we're getting the referrals because, oh yeah, our guy and gal, they're the one that give us advice. I couldn't do it without them. I cannot stress enough how many leads we get just because we're known for being advisors. That's critical. So again, more revenue, more opportunities, you get to develop and have personal growth. And honestly, yes, your clients will have deeper relationships. They'll appreciate you more. And so in order to accomplish this, I'm going to leave this screen sitting here for a second. Let me tell you a short version of my background so you can understand where we're coming from. I originally only became an accountant because I was going into the FBI. I wanted to make sure that my job and my career mattered, and the Bureau was one of those ways to do it. Now, ultimately, I turned them down, and then I turned that into a business that added value, that had meaning. That was the underlying current of why the Bureau was so important to me, is I wanted to make sure what we did helped others. Now, whether I'm helping them stop bad guys and help bad things from happening, or helping them increase value in their business, in their life, in their financial situation, it's still helping. And that's where we start. And I know that's what I'm telling you doesn't link with this page, but I want this page to sit there and simmer, and there's a reason for it. But as we started developing our firm, we focused solely on how do we bring as much value as possible. And how do we solve the problems of the clients? And how do we build an advisory-focused firm? Well, you know what it started with? This screen, this thing you're staring at right now, the work on the business day. The hardest thing about making the addition of advisory or switching to advisory is honestly figuring out how you're going to do it. What am I going to do? What's step one? What's step two? Now, I'm going to give you a methodology that describes how I go about this, how I approach change, how I've coached clients to change, how I've helped coach other CPA firms to it. It works. It's worked bunches of times. But what I want you to understand is it really starts with you making the time. If you have no other takeaways from this webinar, this is the one I want you to have. Clear a thing called the work on the business day, where you set an 8-hour appointment with yourself. And whether you're an employee or an employer does not matter. Clear the time to own your future. Be the business owner. Be the person in charge of your own career. Go hide at a coffee shop. You are not allowed to take emails. You're not allowed to answer phone calls. This is time for you to focus on you and where you're going. These work on the business days should happen no less than quarterly, preferably monthly. Invest in yourself. You're going to find that honestly, this is some of the most powerful time you're going to spend in your entire year, because you're really starting to come up with the plans. This is when you go to that conference and you come back with all these great ideas and then never do them. This is how you do them. You sit down, you prioritize, and you focus. Even if you don't even have an agenda for yourself when you walk into your work on the business day, you go in thinking, all right, well, what's working, what's not working? What do I want to change? What's good, what's bad? If you don't make the time, you're not going to ever make things happen. It's that simple. You're waiting for the world to do things for you instead of owning it yourself. And this is the key. So please, if there's anything you take out of this today, take in the work on the business day, make time for yourself, meet with yourself. You are the most important client you are going to ever have. And that's what I want you to focus on. So how do we get into the methodology? The methodology at its core is very simple. It's 3 steps. We're going to start with matching your passion and your strengths. We're going to identify who you're going to help, and then we're going to create a plan. We're going to focus on you, focus on the client, and then focus on how we're going to do this. And you know what? I've done this multiple times for myself. I've gone back through reinventions, and I always come back to the same methodology and same process. So let's start with accelerator number 1. Let's match your passions and your strengths. So first and foremost, you're going to make a lot of lists. And we're going to start here. Start writing down everything you're passionate about. Now, hang on. I know we're accountants, right? We're supposed to be sitting here talking about numbers, Sean. You're going to give me a process. You're going to give me a billing model. Yeah, that comes later. I know that this is very conceptual. It's important to tackle the conceptual before we get to the tactical. Because if I get into giving you specific techniques and tricks and things to advise people on, I could be teaching the wrong stuff. So think of it this way. If I'm teaching you how to block a defensive lineman, I need you to have your hands in, your elbows down, get your base solid, but you're swimming, completely useless. I don't want you guys to focus on, well, I need to advise on FP&A. I've got to buy a dashboard software. Well, at the conference I went to, they told me I'm supposed to be advising on technology, so I just guess I'm supposed to do that. None of that stuff matters until you figure out what you are supposed to be doing, because your advisory is different than my advisory, and that's the key. That's where we've been so successful, is we drive it back home to what we want. So this is what I want you to do. It's really simple in concept, but you're actually going to find during your work on the business day, this is kind of hard, because it's a lot of heady thinking and planning and visioning, and you'll change your mind 100 times. Write down every single thing that you are passionate about. And I don't care if it has anything to do with work. I like puppies. I like Disney World. I like to travel. I love manufacturing. I like Star Wars. Anything you want, write it down. And I want a complete list, as many things as you can think of. There is no wrong answer. There is nothing that's too silly. Don't judge yourself. If you find that it's the type of thing you're just talking about with your friends a lot, and even when they eye roll at you, you just keep talking about it anyways, man, you're probably pretty passionate about that. So put that list together. That's the first piece of this homework assignment. Second, now we're going to start talking about what you're good at, and honestly, what you're bad at too. Start identifying your strengths. Now, this is one of those moments where we're all taught to be humble, and somebody says, "Oh, you did a great job on that," and then you go, "That's okay, it wasn't that hard." Who cares about humility right now? I want you to be honest. What are the things that you really are good at? And a lot of times, these are the things that your friends are complimenting you on. The projects that you're constantly given at work, or your friends ask you for help. Start stepping back and being honest with what you're good at. And we're looking at both technical and soft skills. I like to talk, and I love to teach, and it's a strength of mine. I have technical skills where I'm really good at looking at a bunch of different complex rules and then bringing those together into a unified strategy. Things that don't naturally, organically fit together, finding a strategy for a client for myself. I'm good at organizing and planning. I'm the one that plans all of our vacations. And yes, I do have a grid that we print out and a schedule and an itinerary. These things are skills that you have that not everyone else has. Start making this list. Now, of course, if you're bad at something, write it down too. Now, one thing I want you to do on the weaknesses part as you're starting to write this list down, I don't want you to approach it purely as, well, I'm bad at it, I'm always going to stink. There could be things that you're weak at, but you really want to be good at. Just make a little note on those to the side, a little star or a circle or something. It's okay to be bad at something. There's nothing wrong. It's not a reflection of you as a bad person. These might be areas where you choose to bolster that weakness. I am a big proponent that we focus on your strengths. We focus on what you are great at. Let other people be great at other things. So for example, I'm terrible at payroll. I don't know what it is. I get this brain lock about payroll. I don't want to mess with it. Maybe it's just because I'm not interested. I don't know. We all know how important payroll is. My employees seem to think it's important for some reason as well. But we want to make sure that you're focusing on your strengths. So you know what? I don't do payroll. I don't do it for myself, and I certainly don't do it for my clients. Nothing wrong with that. I have other people that handle that thing that I am not good at. And whether I choose to not be good at it or I'm just really not good at it, it really doesn't matter. I'm not good at it, period. Identifying those things will allow you to start focusing on the stuff that you're really going to shine. Now, we're talking about passions and strengths. This is very conceptual. These lists absolutely matter as we get going. So as you're creating these lists, this will build and build and build our way through this concept. And so if it feels like I'm going super fast, I am. Like I said, there's a whole exploratory on just the passions that we do in a seminar. There's a whole exploratory and deep dive we do just on the strengths and weaknesses and tools. So right now we're just hitting the major parts so that you can get something working as quickly as possible. After that, you're going to start looking for patterns, because you've now got this really long list of passions. You get this really long list of skills that you're great at. You got this small list of things that you're bad at. Actually, the list of things that you're bad at is probably longer, because hey, guess what? I don't speak Mandarin. I'm bad at that. Think of all the things that you just never even learned to do. It's okay. You just don't know those things. But what you're going to start to do is look at where the passion somehow aligns with the strength. Hey, you know, my strength for organizing has helped me with my travel. You know, my ability to teach really does help feed this passion for speaking and teaching and doing webinars. You're going to find all these little things, and you can have the passion and a little subset and lists of all the different strengths that you think might support that. Now, what's important is you're not making any decisions. This is purely an exercise to start data gathering. Because you know what? I'm pretty darn sure all of you are good at data gathering, organization, and analyzing and looking for patterns. But you know what? That's what we're doing here. We're using this inherent accountant skill of figuring out how do we get to what we're supposed to be doing. And that's what this is all about. How do we get to what the right type of advisory is for you and your practice and your career? So just start making lists, start matching them up. You're going to start making notes, and patterns will begin to emerge. Remember, this is still just about you. This has nothing to do with your clients. This is purely you beginning to identify what is most important for you and what we should be focusing on for you going forward. All right, so we're going to keep on moving to accelerator number 2. What? You're wondering what the results are? Got to find out later. That's part of the mystery. We've just very quickly hit accelerator number 1, which goes to what is important to you, what are you good at, and what are you not good at, and starting to formulate what you're wanting out of the world. Now we're going to turn toward who is it you're choosing to help. So accelerator number 2 is identify who you're going to help. I want you to define the perfect client. The perfect client. Man, if this person walked in my office today, I would help them to the end of time. I can't imagine anyone greater than this. And so when you're identifying this person, who are they? How much money do they have? Where do they live? Do they have families? Do they not have families? Are they in a big business? Are they in a small business? Are they an engineer? Are they a pilot? Are they a doctor? Start creating an actual client profile. Now, internally here at SMD, we do have 3 different client profiles. We have 2 niches and 1 general. The general catches both niches. I'm sure you're shocked to hear that. But for example, one of our niches is we help physicians. We help physicians achieve success. And we can even dive deeper down into, we specifically work on helping surgeons, and even more deeply, if we have to choose, we focus on orthopedic and plastic surgeons. We get a whole reason and methodology on why and how we created that drill down. But we have a general profile. We have a no jerk rule. If you want to have no jerks, go for it. If you don't care if they're jerks and they bring enough money, go for it. This is not who your current clients are. Now, if some of your current clients match your perfect profile, congratulations. That does not happen that much. I want you to start writing down at least 2 profiles, every demographic thing that you can think of. Now, when I say demographic, I'm not trying to be discriminatory. We're not saying alienate anyone. That's not what we are. In fact, one of our core values at SMD is embracing equality and inclusion. We want everybody to be welcome, except for the jerks, because I don't care how much money you make. You don't get to be my client if you're a jerk. But we want you guys to focus on who it is you are most interested to serve. Now, if these start to line up with your passions, great. That's kind of the point, right? If you love puppies and you want to help animal shelters, that naturally creates an organic alignment. And that's where we want you to start moving toward, is the things that drive you the most. Every variable matters. You get to define this, but every variable matters. And if you say, I don't want to help anybody that's international because I don't have an interest, or I'm weak at that, or I just don't like it, or I don't want to travel, that's great. You can decide anything that you want, but you're going to begin building that perfect client profile. After you've defined 2 minimum categories, I want you to begin figuring out, what do those people value? Now, understanding what somebody values is a bit of an art. It's not as much science, right? You may have to go research it. You may have to read articles. You may flat out have to ask people in those segments what's important to them. If you don't understand what they value, you're probably just offering something that you thought was important and they didn't. How many times have you guys done a tax return or completed the books and you're thrilled, man, you killed it. It was the best thing you've ever done. And you're excited and you go, look what I did. Look at this amazing thing. I have created the best tax return or set of books you've ever seen in your life. And you want this high five. And your hand is in the air waiting for them to five you back. And they go, oh, cool. Oh, wait, how much was that? They didn't appreciate you. No, that's not what it was. They didn't value that thing that you valued. And it doesn't make them a bad person. Now, while it is really frustrating to be in those moments where you know that you've done something great and they don't understand it, it's not a reflection of a good or bad on you. It's really just showing you what is it they value. Now, if you can identify what they value and now provide that, holy cow, they're going to fall out of their chair. They're going to be gushing about how you're the only person that really gets them. And here's, for the accountants, the business owners, the important thing I want you to remember, and they will pay for it. People pay a premium for the stuff they value. It doesn't seem like rocket science because it's not. But if you don't know what they value, you're using the wrong language and you're approaching them incorrectly. So when you're creating this client profile, along with that, you're going to have a dossier where you're going to document what's important to them. And believe it or not, these are human beings. You may have learned once or twice that every human being is a little different. They have different wants and needs. And so while I've got that orthopedic surgeon wants this and that orthopedic surgeon wants that, but they're totally different. That's normal. That's where you're going to start keeping notes on your specific clients so you can understand what they want. Now that will start coming up a little bit later on a client by client basis, but we're back to, if you have clients that already fit your ideal client mix, the one that you just drafted up, and start writing this stuff down. This client is always talking about fishing. Put it in the file. Make sure that they know fishing. It doesn't mean you have to be passionate about fishing, but understanding that they do, when you're telling them you're doing something to free up their time, you don't say, hey, look, I found a way to save you 4 hours a week. You can actually just change the wording. I'm going to help you with this so I can free up 4 hours a week. Man, how much fishing could you get in then? As cheesy as that sounds, it absolutely means that you're understanding that human being and helping them out more completely. Now, of course, you see in the little pro tip down there, everything that they're saying they want, listen, it may not just be the fishing example. They may be telling you what advisory service they're asking you for and you want to pay. And we have a really bad habit of glossing over some of that stuff. When they say, man, I just can't keep track of all these stinking credit cards. I've just got too many and it's just, it's a beatdown. And you're thinking, well, cool, I'll just track them in your books and you'll have what it is. They might be asking you to help them just consolidate the tax return or consolidate the credit cards. Now, does that even sound like a project? I'm telling you it is. I promise you, because I have done it. We have gone in and said, you know what, you've got 9 credit cards for your company. You might want to change and look at this app or this piece of software. And you know there's a lot of different vendors out there that do stuff for that. You know, we might want to just boil this down into one credit card that has a sub accounts for all of your guys that are out there driving. Think of a solution and then you can charge for it. And we're going to give some specific examples of different projects and stuff later on, but understanding what they value will start giving you ideas on stuff that you can charge for that you may not have been even considering before. Because again, this is about helping them and helping you at the same time. So once you get to that and you've established things that they value, you can quantify. Now, this is also back to the art. How much is that thing worth to them? Well, okay, if we're going to pop an S-Corp on somebody, they're really frustrated with the taxes that they pay. And you know, if you switch them into an S-Corp where you're going to save them $10,000 a year every year, that's easy to quantify, right? We know the advisory solution of helping them with the S-Corp, and I can quantify it. But when you start talking about how much time they're saving, efficiency, time with their family, hard to quantify, but you can try. You can use equivalent hourly rates. You can use other valuations, and you can just ballpark it. The worst thing that happens is you're wrong, and it's okay to be wrong. That means you charge too much or too little. You'll adjust over time. This is an evolutionary process as you move more and more into the advisory model. And so as you start coming up with, you've defined who it is you want to help, you understand what they value, you start getting some dollar amounts on what it's worth, you can start actually creating packages. You can do a project, you can do a relationship, start penciling. And I specifically say penciling because you've not made a decision yet. Penciling out these solutions you could start offering. And again, don't forget, this is not about who your current clients are. We're talking about who you could eventually help if you landed them or you get more and more of those clients. And pro tip, you can charge what it's worth, not just what your hourly rate is. In fact, I'm going to beg you, please consider knock it off with the hourly rate stuff, because when you get more efficient, you're punishing yourself. And when you're slow, you're punishing your client. There's no synergy in that. You want to be there to help them. If you're saving them $100,000, is there anything wrong with charging them $20,000? Well, Sean, it depends. It does depend. But if it took you 1 hour to do something and you saved your client $100,000, is it right to charge them $20,000? My answer is it might be. You get to make the call, but if you just say, well, I charge $300 an hour and it only took me an hour, how much money did you just leave on the table on that value pricing opportunity? Please consider you have so much more value than you really give yourself credit for. We have so much information that we take for granted as accountants that the clients don't even realize all that we're bringing to them. It is time for them to compensate commensurate with the skills. And you know that you have these skills, and don't brush it off as you get going. So as we've moved through the first 2 accelerators, and again, I told you I was going to go fast, y'all. I want to leave you time for questions because I am going to move quickly. We've got some other cool stuff to talk about. So accelerator number 3. Now, 30 minutes in, we're already hit the 3rd accelerator. If you still feel like there's a lot of details, yep, there's a lot more details to go, but let's hit it. We create a business plan. So again, accelerator number 1, we focus on you. What do you want? What are your passions? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Number 2, who do you want to help? And how can you help them? What do those people value? Once you've got a good picture of that, we're still actually going to focus on you. As we create a business plan, like Simon Sinek says, you start with your why. I want you to begin painting a picture of what your perfect world looks like. What are you doing 10 years, 5 years, 50 years from now? Whenever you say, I'm done, and you look back on your life of accomplishments and you go, man, I am so proud of what I've done because blah. Because you helped people, because you accomplished this, because you made a certain amount of money, because you're living at a certain destination, because your kids are in college, because you have no kids, because you travel all the time, because you don't travel, because you like staying home. What does your world look like? And I want you to create actual bucket lists. In my drawer here on my desk, I have an actual bucket list that I attack and I scratch things off as I accomplish things in life. And I have personal goals and I have business goals. You're not going to be surprised to find out, hey, these align with your passions and strengths, right? I mean, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about what you want out of your life. Please take a moment and reflect. This is your life. This isn't just some job. Now, it could be just some job. If that's all you want, that's cool. But think about how much more gratifying everything would be is if your work was in alignment with your passion, your strength, and working toward whatever your joy is. And I know that sounds like some big kumbaya moment, but I really want you to understand and think about what that could feel like. If you take the time to start aligning these things together, it will have these massive shifts in everything you're going to do, how you feel, how much money you make. Now, again, remember, I went back and I had a firm and I was doing taxes. And the thing I didn't tell you is back in 2017, I was the largest firm in town. I was successful. I had all these clients, literally landing hundreds of clients every few months because, man, it was easy and it was all word of mouth. The problem was, and you've probably been there before, kind of miserable. Sunday afternoon, I'm working and it's 75 degrees out and my wife and kids are at Six Flags. That's not in alignment with what I wanted. I wanted to be a dad. I wanted to be a husband. I want to participate. Why am I sitting here on a Sunday? The numbers said I was successful. I mean, the profit and loss statement looked awesome, and I guess I was growing, and I had all these employees, and I was building out this firm. But I also wasn't giving advice because I disappeared during tax season. If you've ever had that moment, usually during tax season, where you're like, did I make the wrong choice? Do I need to find another career? This is you reflecting, unfortunately reflecting while you're in the trenches, right? It's really hard to look up at the horizon when you're ducking bullets from the trench. So now that you're out of it, stop and reflect. What do I really want out of my life and my career? And that's where this comes from. This is where the business plan starts. You're defining what your success looks like, and like everything else, you're different than everyone else. My definition of success does not mean I have the biggest firm in town. I'm blessed that we're doing better than we were when we were the biggest firm in town. And the numbers play it out in a lot of different ways. Oh, and by the way, I take vacation on spring break every year. I'm a CPA specializing in tax and tax advice, and I am gone most of the time during spring break. I don't know about you, but that's considered a sin in our industry. It's part of my success. If I take less than 5 trips a year, I'm furious, because part of my success is being with my family and taking trips. There is nothing on the radar that you can write down that's wrong, except, and here's my judgment, and you'll see here in the other things, don't hurt people along the way. You do not have to stomp on people to be successful. There are so many opportunities out there to be successful without that. So that's my one rule. But when you're creating this, don't judge yourself. If you want 7 Ferraris and you want to name them Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, there is nothing wrong with that. Put it on your list. When that little internal conversation says, well, that's me being greedy. I really don't need a beach house in Tahiti. Is that what you want? Then by all means, put it on the list. These are goals you're achieving. Now, flip side of that is don't also give yourself assignments that you don't want. If you don't want to, I don't know, volunteer at the soup kitchen 8 hours a day, 4 days a week, it's okay. It doesn't make you a bad person. You do what you want to do. I do charity, and I do all kinds of charitable stuff. I do my version of charity, which is different than other people. So if you have that nagging, your mom is telling you what you're supposed to do feeling, hold on. Is this your goal or somebody else's goals that's been set for you? Boil that down. Be honest. This is your life. I want you to start painting that picture as clearly as you possibly can, because that's how a real business plan is written. And as you do, you start matching all this stuff up, right? You start saying, well, wait a second, I'm really passionate about this industry. I'm really good at helping those people because of these skills. Oh my gosh, I have this client profile that I know exactly how I'd go get them. And to achieve my goals, I just need 15 of those clients. Like, you can start to create this future. And you're going to start pairing up your ideal client with the services you're creating. And you're going to naturally feel when you're drawn towards something that's right. You're going to just, it's going to bubble up. Because remember, I did say, we're all really, really good at analysis. This is what we're trained on. We look at numbers and we look at patterns and we look at trends, and it's there. When you start writing this down, whether it's words or numbers, patterns will emerge. And you're going to start bringing these lists together. Where do the passions and the strengths and the ideal clients start aligning? And what's going to happen is you're going to actually begin that first steps of creating your business plan. And then as we get to it, you're actually going to roadmap this out. Now, I use the map analogy on purpose. When you're driving somewhere, you know where you need to go, and a lot of times you know which exits you need to take, and you know which gas stations you need to stop at along the way because you got 3 little kids in the car. You know the milestones. You know approximately how long it's going to take you to get there, but we're not as worried about the time as getting to these milestones. A true business plan is the same way. I know that I want my success to look like this. I believe that it's going to take me about 10 years to achieve that. But I don't know. It might take longer, it might take less. What I have found is if you implement, there's a concept called the entrepreneurial operating system. If you have read the book Traction, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. If you haven't read the book Traction, recommend penciling that one down. This is really, really cool. It breaks things down into rocks, which is these same milestones or these markers. You give yourself tangible goals that get you along the way of this roadmap, and you focus on the achievement of the goal and not the timing of the goal. Now you give yourself deadlines sometimes. I need to do these things this quarter. I need to do these things this quarter. But if you do it faster, there's no reason you can't move on to the next step. And this is where actually I really first experienced how well this works. When I started my firm in 2006, I had a 5-year plan where one day, golly, I'd sure like to have 2 employees in an office. Within a year and a half, I had 2 employees in an office. I knew which milestones I needed to achieve. Number of clients, certain amounts of revenue, my work hours reaching a certain level, all these different things that I knew that when I would need the next person, but I didn't have to worry about it was going to take me exactly 5 years. And so every time I've ever set a business plan, usually I accomplish it quicker. Now, we will say that the exception has been, hey, did you hear in 2020 and 2021, there was this COVID-y thing that really threw our world through a loop. There will be setbacks. There will be things that throw you off, but it doesn't take you off your destination. It was just a detour. And that's what I want you to understand. I could have continued doing tax returns instead of firing them all. What, did I just say that? Yeah, I actually fired all my tax returns in the methodology of building out this model. But it was absolutely the right choice because that path was going to end up being the longer road to success as opposed to focusing on a new detour. And so looking at the milestones and the markers you're wanting to achieve. Now, of course, the hardest thing about this is making a decision. We have a tendency as accountants to analyze things and want to be completely correct and want to be right and want to be on point. And I got to make sure it's the right choice. There is no way of knowing if it is absolutely the right choice. Like Mark Twain said, and I'm from Illinois and 20 minutes away from Hannibal, Missouri, where Mark Twain was raised. I have a lot of Mark Twain quotes rolling around in my head, but this one has always stuck with me. The secret of getting ahead is just getting started. Start somewhere. You've just gone through creating what you love. You've just identified who you want to help. You know what success looks like. How do I get there? I know that I've got to at least have 2,000 clients to do this, but to get 2,000 clients, I have to do this marketing plan. You start working your way backwards from those milestones to figure out what your steps are today. Don't go, well, I'm not sure, it's not going to work. Try something. You're going to be pleasantly surprised what your efforts will yield. And it could just be as simple as like, I want to try this one advisory service. Let's see what it does. Next thing you know, you made 2,000 bucks. Oh, I should do that 10 times. Yes, you should. Or you do one for 2,000 and realize you should have charged 5. You know what you're going to do on the next 10? You're going to charge 5, and now you made 50,000. You're going to oops, but each oops is a fall forward. How do I continue falling forward to my levels of success? And this is the other thing that I often point out, this pro tip, where I say the work on the business day, if all else fails, whatever goals you're setting for yourself, if you don't make the time, it's not going to work. This is one of those ones I want you to absorb as well and really think about. You've just painted a picture of what your future is that's probably different than the trajectory you were on just 40 minutes ago when I started talking. If you start painting this picture of what your new universe is going to look like, what's the likelihood that all the clients you have today are the same people that are going to be there when you achieve this new future? It's very, very unlikely. And that's hard for us because we're people pleasers. We want to help people out. We want to create solutions. This is what we do. You're not firing them, but you also need to focus on you and your goals too. And if your goals aren't in line with their goals, then helping them find somebody else that is the right fit is actually good for them and good for you. It's okay that you're going to transition. That is normal. And honestly, if you think of it this way, if they were paying you $100 for a tax return and you want to charge 1,000, you don't have those clients anymore. I would rather you do one tax return for 1,000 than 10 for 100. Just greater risk associated with those 10 and more chances of issues. So keep that in mind. So next, this is the question that everybody wants to start with. There's a reason I go through the process and the steps of here's how you start working on it, because your advisory being different than mine, but let me give you some real examples. Now, some of these you may eye roll at. Some of these you may say that'll never apply to my firm, and some of these are like, are you kidding me? People pay that? How about this? I used the S corporation election earlier on. If I tell you we need to do an S corp on this client, it's going to save them $10,000 a year in self-employment tax. Many of us will go, well, shoot, that's easy. Yeah, I'll fill out the 2553. What's that going to take you? 15 minutes at most. What did you just charge? 1/4 of an hour of your time. Is that all really an S election is involved? Don't you have to set up reasonable comp? Don't you maybe have to tweak out how their balance sheet is going to report it? Don't you need to explain to them how it works and what draws in excess of basis are going to look like? Don't you have to wait for the IRS to now take 18 months, 2 years? Aren't there letters going to come rejecting because the IRS is so behind? When those letters show up, do you charge every single time a letter or an update about your S election shows up? Or do you just go, man, it's cool, we'll just wait? We're giving this highly valuable thing away time and time again, but yet you know full well it's not just filling out the form 2553. It's making the choice. Is it a Rev Proc election? Am I going to have to answer questions to the client? Am I going to have to answer questions to the IRS? Am I going to have to work with ADP to get payroll set up? All of these things should be charged. And I'm telling you, every single time we do an S election, it's between $1,000 and $3,000, period. Why? Because it's worth $10,000 a year to them. If you are on the receiving end of something where somebody walks up and go, look, I'm going to save you $10,000 every year from here on out, but it's going to cost you $2,500 to get it all done, but you know what? I got you covered. As a business owner, you should be doing that. If you don't know how to do it yourself, which they don't, you do. See, you understand how straightforward it is because you've been trained. The surgeon understands how straightforward it is to set a broken bone because they've been trained. It doesn't make it less valuable to the person that's in pain. These people are in financial pain. You're helping them with their pain. You're not being a jerk by charging appropriately for it. And so if you just start thinking about how many S elections have you made over your career and you've charged a couple $100 for? What if you add an extra 0 to that? And what would that have done? And that is one service, one thing that we see all the time. How about reviewing somebody else's return? We do that all the time. People will come in and say, not sure if this is right. You know, I really want to make sure that I'm not missing any deductions. Charge them $900. I'll take a peek at it and I'll write up a summary of what I find. I didn't even do the return and I charged them $900. Is that appropriate? You know what? If I found errors, they're thrilled. If I don't find errors, they're thrilled because they didn't have a problem. Your knowledge has value. I charge to do my analysis to create quotes because the demand is so high. I cannot help everyone without charging for it. I want you to hear that. If you're thinking of adding advisory to your firm and the guy talking on teaching you this stuff is telling you, I charge to do the analysis to give a proposal because the demand for our services is so high that I cannot just do that for free anymore. That's telling you how many clients are out there waiting for you to help them out. What if you are an IT person? Set up the integrations between their manufacturing software and QuickBooks or Xero. You have this knowledge on how to make those things talk together. And sometimes it's a big complex project. Maybe there's a massive cleanup. Maybe there's a big Zapier project you have to do. Maybe there's a, who knows, right? You know your industry, you know your clients. These are big projects that if you're billing by the hour, you're usually cheating yourself out of it, or you're convincing yourself to go slower, which doesn't help you either. How about this? And I'm going to go quicker because I'm going to get to some recurring work. Accountable plan. How many clients do the accountable plan correctly? Okay, here's where I as a Texan will kick in and say, hey, y'all, how many clients are really doing their accountable plan correctly? None of them. What if you created templates and processes and checklists and just said, hey, I'll build this customized for you. You may have already created it once. Now you're white labeling it. Maybe the first time you have to create it from scratch, but now you can repeat it. Just something as simple as getting them right and giving them the documentation and processes is worth thousands, not just because of the audit and the paper trail that would come, the issue that would come from that. You're helping them be more efficient. You're saving them time. You're establishing rules, and they need your help. You know how this works. They don't. And so here's some other ones, partnering up with somebody else. We have this happen all the time, where somebody does not know how to give the advice. Maybe should we reorganize the entities? Hey, Sean, can you do an analysis on that tax return because I'm really not clear? We have actually come in many times and been the behind the scenes where somebody pays us as an expert, and then we give them the advice, and then they go look at as the expert on the client side. Flip that around. Maybe you know something the CPA down the street doesn't know. You don't have to be competition. Because of your unique expertise, they can make money and you can make money, or they're better at something. You can margin on top of somebody else's expertise. There's nothing wrong with that. We do that all the time with cost segregations. The cost seg engineering firm might charge us $7,000. I'll charge my client $9,000. They still saved $82,000 this year in taxes. So the difference between 7 and 9 is immaterial. They got our knowledge. I got paid $2K while the engineering firm got paid their full fee. Everybody wins. There is nothing wrong with being profitable. So how about recurring stuff? Oh, actually, we didn't let me talk about recurring because I didn't add the slide. There are all kinds of services that you can offer where you come in every single quarter as a bookkeeper and you just review their self-prepared books. They don't want to pay you for the monthly, so charge them $750 a quarter just to look at it and go, yeah, you did that wrong. Yeah, you did that wrong. Maybe what will happen is they're going to find so many mistakes, they're eventually going to hand you over the monthly books. Congratulations, you won that recurring project. What about recurring consulting? Twice a year, 4 times a year, monthly, whatever you feel fits your client. You analyze things, you meet, you discuss, you go over their plan with them. Set up a subscription model. You've seen that before as well. Whatever speaks to you, which is why we did the conceptual exercise at the beginning, that's what I want you to focus on. And like I said, try something, anything, just start somewhere. Now, something I want to also point out is make sure that you have the right tools in place. Now, we use SmartVault. You're moving a lot of very important information back and forth with your clients. Secure movement of that information. My wife works in cybersecurity. So let me just tell you real quick, never email anything with a social security number on it. I don't care if you've password protected it. I don't care what you think your security is like. They can be hacked. Oh, Sean, it's a PDF. I don't care. I'm telling you, it can be hacked. Using our information, and you all know how much we can get penalized and fined if our client's information is stolen. Never mind the bad will that creates to our business. Using the right tools to securely move that data is absolutely critical. And we're going to talk a little bit about just some things that we do. I think this might help you because, again, SmartVault has been such an integral part to what we do when we move this information. If you're listening to this, you already know about SmartVault most likely. You know how great they are as it relates to tax returns and keeping the data moving back and forth. It applies to the advisory world as well. As we take in information, we're actually touching on not just business and tax. We're looking at wealth management. We're looking at estate plans. We're doing business law work. Yeah, we actually do tax law, wealth management, and insurance, all in this joint venture that is related to S&D consulting and accounting. So we're pulling in tons of information. And so what we'll do is we'll set up our folder system accordingly. And what's really great is we can give the permissions that make the most sense for as well. And our process is really fairly simple. Our administrator sets up the appointments. I meet with the prospect. I give them a homework assignment of sending me a ton of information. I charge them to analyze that information. Remember I said that? And then we email and do document requests as we get going from it. You can see that's here on the process. And what's great is once they become a client, and you can see under the how we've got this structured, our trick is any folder that says the word client at the first, that's one a client can see. All the rest are internal. So my consulting folder, I can put anything I want in there and the client will never see it. I move it to client uploads, or I can even move it to client source documents. It immediately is activated and the clients can see it. I get to choose who has visibility. If I only want my wealth management team to see stuff, I can share only that set of folders. This is really important for efficiencies as well as security. And something I learned actually recently, I don't know why I didn't know this, SmartVault backs up hourly. Hourly. Your data, if something blows up or is stolen or compromised or anything, or you delete the wrong thing, it's there. They back it up hourly, which is so awesome because I've may or may not have deleted a file or two in my life. Security for us is huge. The documentation for our team. Complex clients, we have lots and lots and lots of information. How we sort it is absolutely critical. And yeah, we brand the heck out of this. The client doesn't know it's SmartVault. They think it's, wow, S&D really has a lot of cool stuff back there. So partnering with the right vendors, and SmartVault obviously is a critical vendor for us, is really key to helping us execute all these plans. Now, 55 minutes. I have been going quick. I know that some of you might have some questions. So Chief Proactive Advisors is my company that we do for the teaching and the speaking, and this is the lightning round version of it. If you have questions, check your email for SmartVault and check it out for our workbook that goes with this webinar and seminar. But as we are wrapping up with a few minutes, I'm going to end the slideshow and see if I can do this correctly. Did we have any questions? I know I went fast, y'all, but do we have any questions? Did anything come up that maybe we can answer today?
Yeah, you mentioned that this is a 6-hour course crammed into 60 minutes. So how can our attendees today see the full 6 hours?
The full 6 hours are coming out later. I would encourage you, follow me on LinkedIn. Check out our website, smdaccounting.com. There is a seminars tab. You can fill out the form there to get more information. We should be rolling out the first one right around August because we know summer, everybody's still kind of getting themselves going. And we're going to drop one each month. So we'll keep an eye out that we're recording them right now to get each 1 hour seminar. There'll be extra workbooks and other deep dives that come from that. And we're going to roll out mastermind groups afterwards and along the way where there's a lot of chance for dialogue and Q&A. And so it's not just, this one, yes, was me talking a lot and giving you a lot. We understand participation is going to be a big part of that. So keep an eye out. So check out the website, SMD, as in Sean Michael Duncan, accounting.com, smdaccounting.com. Under the seminars tab, you'll see the form that you can fill out. And then you can always email the folks here at SmartVault. They'll get you some information as well.
Awesome. Now, because we are a little short on time, I just have one extra question for you. And this one's actually from me. Can you actually share one of your bucket list items with our attendees today?
Oh, okay. So I am a San Diego Chargers fan. Did I just say San Diego? Yes, I said San Diego Chargers fan. I'm still adjusting to this LA thing, so bear with me on that. Take a look at the screen. When you were looking at the screen, was it all blue, gold, and white? If you look at my business colors, I'm that big of a fan. One of my bucket lists is to watch a Chargers game in every single stadium in the United States. And so I'm slowly working through that because I'm also a massive traveler. So I've got this huge list of all these places I want to travel domestically and internationally. So my domestic trips are partially driven by, can I get to a game in every single stadium? So we're working on that. I'm hoping to catch 2 this coming season. We'll see how it goes. But I've got a lot of travel related to speaking. So I'm going to see if I can set up a speaking event at the same time there's a game and make it a business expense and take somebody with me.
Smart. Well, you'll have to keep us updated on how close you get to accomplishing that one. So that's all the time that we have for today. Thank you, Sean, and thank you everyone for joining us. As a reminder, we are sending out a copy of the recording from today's session, as well as Sean's Advisory Accelerator workbook. Of course, if you have any questions for SmartVault or for Sean, feel free to email us at marketing@smartvault.com. Again, that's marketing@smartvault.com, and we'll be sure to get a way to get your questions answered. Thanks again, everybody.